we good? We all good?
Yeah.
All right, so, welcome. Where's the live? We got a whole lot of new going on.
Yeah.
So we're practicing, new microphone, new setup. If things sound or look strange, we'll make it better or we won't. We can only do so much with ourselves. Also, we have a new cast support guru individual over here, Tim. Say hi, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
That was waiting for you to do that.
Expected.
Tim will be taking Elliot's place. Elliot, he got a job and life has kind of gotten busy,
Yeah.
but he'll be in and out. So we'll have the joy of having Elliot back and forth every now and then. So, we're still Where's the Line? He's Tillman, I'm Alex, this is Tim. The goal, to recap, because we've had a few weeks off, is to engage in conversations that people are having or shouldn't, maybe they're not having, they should be having, about difficult topics, different positions, cultural differences as they apply across all kinds of spectrums. And if you've watched any of our videos, you know that we hit a lot of different topics. So that's where we are now, that's who we are, and we're gonna get started. We're gonna keep with our format of different topics. We're gonna go from there.
This is good to be back.
It is good.
Yeah, taking the time off. I appreciate everybody who's stuck around and checking us out still now. And yeah, we really appreciate y'all and sorry for the absence.
Yep.
And so, how you been?
I'm good, man, good. Life keeps happening,
Does it?
right? Yeah, life keeps happening. So, but I mean, I'm in a good place. And I do miss that we haven't done this. It's been
Oh, yeah.
3 weeks now. I don't know how that's gonna relate out to our videos and everybody.
It's
but
actually been 4 now.
It's been almost
It's been 4 weeks.
Yeah,
it really
since
is.
we had a filming,
Yeah.
and it's probably gonna be another week before we get things up, so it's a long break. I've missed it, I've missed the opportunity to sit down and talk, and, I miss Elliot being a part of it, but we're grateful that Tim is here. He's a great asset. Y'all might remember Tim, because he sat in as a guest
Yeah.
one time.
Oh, yeah.
Rambled quite a bit,
Thoroughly embarrassed myself.
random thoughts, and that's okay, but that's what we expect from you.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
Wow.
I think what we should
No,
do is
but
we should
that's
let
a
Tim introduce today's first topic.
Yeah.
Okay, what is today's first topic?
Well, this is where you're supposed to be.
Oh, this is where I'm supposed to have an idea?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the
There's more
format
to
of
this
the
than just sitting on the
show.
couch, man. I mean,
Oh, I see. How about I introduce the second topic?
I can tell you what
I
it
can
is.
tell you what it is.
Yeah, after you tell me.
Are you nervous?
Well, no, I'm just here.
You sound nervous. You appear nervous.
You're really forcing that, aren't you?
Which part?
All of it.
He's an expert in building.
Yeah, he is, like, you're really good at it. Yeah, of course. It's all part of the healing process.
We get to tear somebody
$70
down
an
a
hour.
little bit, build them back up.
$70 an hour. Yeah, I built it up and then
Actually, it's nice.
75.
My rates have gone up.
Oh, yes, they certainly
I'm
have.
sure.
All right, then to pick a starting topic out of the top of my head, you said you were off for the last 4 weeks. Let's look at the last 4 weeks. What are the biggest things that have been on your minds for the last 4 weeks?
Perfect introduction.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You have the topic, so you go. So the Olympics are going on right now. I checked this morning, America is ahead in the medal count, but we're slightly behind. I think we're 2 behind in the gold count to China now, but we're like 10 medals ahead of them. The viewership for this Olympics are lower than they've been in 20 years or something, right? Now, people, or the media, is saying that has to do with the protesting, the athletes and so forth, that people have become kind of disenfranchised, to use that word, about athletes or the Olympics altogether, so they're just not watching it. I kind of believe it's twofold. I think it's a piece of that, but I also think it has to do with the fact that they're a full, 12 hours behind us, too. So things that are happening now happen, that's on TV now, happened 12 hours ago, and, it's off. And it's not in a time zone that's relatively close to ours where you can watch it happen, kind of thing. So I think it probably has as much to do with that as it does with,
When you say viewership, do you specifically mean global viewership or U.S. viewership?
U.S. viewership.
Okay.
I did not get the numbers on global
Okay.
viewership. But I know the NBC is reporting that their ratings are down, and I'm assuming they only track ratings. Well, they're only reporting on ratings in America. They probably track them everywhere, but.
Right.
Yeah.
So the thought is, what's up with that? I mean, I have some opinions about this, but what do you think?
I mean, I think overall it's the same thing that I have said to you before about football ratings and basketball ratings and all these other live event ratings. Is number one, this doesn't include internet viewership. Like when I watch a live basketball game, it's on Hulu or on my phone, on YouTube, or like it's never cable TV. It's never where they actually get their ratings from. So as the internet's high speed continues to rise and more people have access to that and using the internet for these things, the lower the ratings are going to be until they make that adjustment and include that in the same way they're using streaming. You know?
I don't know. We'll have to figure that
Yeah,
out.
they don't now. They are starting to do estimates, but you don't know until they actually include these numbers because it's a whole different.
So you feel like
source
it's
and fact.
effectively as many viewers,
And so-
it's not being tracked.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you compare it to the last 4 years, the way the technology moved like 4 years ago is a big jump in difference as well. So you probably have far more people moving in that direction as well. But also, I would say for myself personally, I haven't even thought about the Olympics for real.
That's what I was gonna say.
I've seen the media talk about it, and I've seen those things of what's going on. But as far as like, it's not that culturally that it used to be to me.
That's what I was gonna
And,
suggest, is especially growing up around the Olympics, it's like, I feel like there's just a slow disinterest in the Olympics over time. I feel like almost every 4 years someone's saying, well, it seems like people care about it less than they did last 4 years.
That might be relative.
And I think that's too because, especially for Americans, you know, football isn't in the Olympics, and football is the biggest sport here by far. It's not even close. And even with basketball, like it's huge here, but then they only sent like one superstar to the Olympics this year, as in where prior years it was 12 of the 15 were superstars.
Yeah.
You know, and so no, I don't care to watch Kevin Durant by himself try to carry the U.S. Olympic team, essentially,
Which
you
is
know,
good.
which is what he did, and you know they won gold and everything. But the media also was telling me that this team sucks. They lost this game and this game and that game. So I was like, well, if they're losing, why would I tune in? And then the next thing I hear, oh, they won the gold. That happened with all that losing. You know, like the media played a part in me not watching it and not being interested in that as well. Because that's normally the only thing I would have tuned in for.
Well, what's the benefit of the media than trying to turn people off from the Olympics?
I don't know if they were trying to
Because hate
tune us up, but
clicks are more reliable than interest clicks.
Yeah,
And
Is that really true though?
No,
I think it's absolutely true.
people will click on something
People-
negative. We all rubberneck for the car crash.
Oh yeah.
Like we all stop for the car crash.
I have
wants to
never
see
had
that.
an interest in the Olympics before. Just never really piqued my interest. It's just not something that is on my radar. But even I am getting barraged with articles about the discourse and only the discourse.
Yes.
And I think it's because, as is the case in many other industries, like especially entertainment, you can get someone to click on an article if it's about how something that they like is bad.
Yeah.
So the negative portrayal of Olympians or Olympian athletes or America as performance in the Olympics is more what they're pushing as a narrative because that gets more attention. Then my argument would be if that's what they're doing, then why isn't there a higher viewership?
Because there's also that general sort of ennui about the Olympics at the same
Just don't
time.
care.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
And also it's about knowing the underlying numbers as well. Because NBC may generate more money from the amount of clicks that they get from bashing the Olympics than it would actually generate from people watching it. There's a possibility as well. As in where if you gotta click 5 times and each page has 7 ads versus you watch an actual live event and
It's
it's only
one
3
feed and that's
commercials.
it, yeah.
You know what I mean? You may generate more money from the actual clicks. But that's about knowing what the numbers actually are for. So it could be that. All I know is that at the end of the day, for that type of thing, they're going to do whatever is more profitable. So even though I may assume that it's more profitable for them to get people to watch a live events, if they are steering us away from it purposely, then obviously that's what's more profitable for their business.
And
some
honestly,
days people just go watch it, going to watch it, or realizing from the last 4 years that these numbers are going down, so we're just going to make this adjustment.
I mean, it used to matter though. I mean,
honestly, you can see that
Yeah.
all over any form of entertainment, from wrestling to video games to movies. It generates so much profit to just bash on something even before it's even come out, because you can get people to click on something that is negative about something that they like. If anything, just to be angry at it.
Right, well, I mean, that's a
And also the superstars are out too.
Huh?
Like I said, all the superstars are out.
Yeah, but I have a problem, I disagree with that. I mean, Simone Biles, to me, is a superstar.
She's
She did.
she left.
Well, she did
She
get
did
golden
return,
in the thing, but, and I'm respectful of her mental health needs, and it turns out something was really going on with her family that was
Yeah,
weighing
she
her
had
down.
aunt that passed.
Yeah, I mean, there was
That
something.
passed doing that country.
Right, I mean, so that's legit, and now people have tried to spin that up into something, an entitled, athlete or whatever. I'm not gonna go there with that.
Yeah.
Now, the ones that are intentionally kneeling and different things during the national anthem, again, that goes back to my whole issue with Kaepernick and all that, but, damn, then don't wear the American uniform. If you really don't like the country that you represent that much, go somewhere. If you're that good at soccer, there's another country that'll happily welcome you in. I just don't get, they're well paid, that not only do they make decent salaries, they don't make a lot, not like professional athletes, but they get paid well, probably more than you and I make, okay? Plus endorsements, that puts them up there, right? And they get the best training, medical care, etc. Olympic athletes in America are well cared for. Children worship them. I mean, it's still regarded as, they're the best in the world at whatever they do. Now, we can make a discussion whether or not ping pong escalates to the level of Olympic, sport, but for every little kid out there playing ping pong, that's something that they can achieve too. Like the one I never knew and I watched was handball. Have you seen that where the men, really, they're trying to throw a ball in the net on a basketball court? I kind of smiled at that. I was like, okay, now that, you know what? I probably could have done that. But again, so, and curling, I don't know how that became an Olympic sport or not, where they slide the their ice, but, the ones like track and field that we love so much, obviously gymnastics, any of the athletic team sports.
That's what I was gonna say, that's where the superstar is going.
From what?
Because she got suspended.
Which one?
Richardson?
The runner?
Sha'carri Richardson for marijuana use?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she's not the only superstar.
She had the most hype around her coming into this. Like, people were talking about her.
I never had heard about her until she tested positive for marijuana.
Okay, well, there was a lot of hype that built right before that happened. Like, her name was blowing
She's
up.
the one who used it. But so that shouldn't negatively impact people's thoughts or feelings about the Olympics.
But what I'm saying is just to be able to draw, like she was going to be a draw.
Oh,
She would have been a huge draw for viewership. Because track and field at the end of the day, which at the end of the day, track and field is like, that is the number one thing in the Olympics period.
Right.
And then your 100-meter dash is like, this is the god of athletes.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
it
so-
used to be. You remember the first one was the marathon, right?
Yeah,
26.1 mile run or whatever it is. From Maranatha to Athens, the original Olympic, that's why it was called marathon. But yes, the 100-meter dash is the fastest human,
Exactly.
what's his name, Bolt? Yeah.
And
So fast.
Yeah, and that's the thing that really is the draw.
Right.
So you think personalities are the biggest draw of
of
the Olympics now? So you think that personalities are the biggest draw of the Olympics now?
Oh, yeah.
More than the athletic.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I find
I
fascinating.
mean, that's kind of, these people are legends. Like, if I say Jesse Owens, I say Carl Lewis, I say Michael Johnson, like, these people are legends
You know
of
who
the
those
Olympics.
people are.
I know who Michael Johnson is.
Who's Michael
See?
Johnson?
Well, he
Oh,
called
no. Who's Michael Johnson?
Oh, and I don't think I know who Michael Johnson is anymore.
Michael Jordan is a different person. Who's Michael Johnson?
I wasn't even thinking Michael Jordan, I was thinking Magic Johnson.
That's a whole different world. Who's Carl Lewis?
No idea.
You know who Flo is?
No.
Do you know who,
I'm very comfortable
you know,
under my rock.
do you know who Caitlyn Jenner is?
I do know who
Oh,
Caitlyn
Do you
Jenner
know
is.
Alright, cool.
who she
You know
was
that.
before?
Yeah, of course I know
Yeah, you
that.
know, yes, you heard of Bruce. Bruce Jenner.
Yes, I know who Bruce Jenner
Okay,
is.
yeah.
Gold medal decathlete. You know
Yes.
what a decathlon is?
I've never done a decathlon.
Do you know what?
You know what it is.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I do. What is a decathlon?
It's 5 different.
No. The tip.
Oh, it's a- yeah, it's a deck, yeah.
Decathlon, yes, 10, sorry.
The pentathlon.
Yes.
That's an incredible accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gold medal.
Yeah.
And she's running for governor of California now.
Hey, Arnold Schwarzenegger did that once.
And he was a, 9-time Mr.
Mhm.
World, Mr.
Mr. Universe, I think.
Mr. Universe.
California licensed athletes, licensed champions, obviously.
Whatever. I think the whole part of it is this weird area that we've come in, we've talked on before, that patriotism is viewed negatively now. So people are less likely to go USA. Now, I watched some.
But is
you know, they do-
patriotism, is it a crime to criticize something and be a patriot at the same time? Is that impossible?
No. I'm critical of some areas of our government, the functioning of it, and so forth.
The things
But
that
what I
affect-
don't ever hear is that criticism with the foundational belief in America and the system that we've created, and the guiding document, the Constitution, that created a rich belief in the historical evolution of America as the greatest country in the world. I rarely hear the criticism with that appreciation.
Is it possible that you benefited the most from those things?
Me individually?
Or like benefited more than many of the people who criticize without that patriotism?
Saying as a straight white man.
Yeah. Is it possible?
Anyway, so because I'm a heterosexual,
Mhm.
Caucasian, conservative, Christian male, then I have benefited more than anyone else.
Not anyone else, but you
Us.
benefited, then I would argue that you've benefited more from it than many people.
So we've had this white privilege discussion before.
Yeah.
Did you solve it?
No.
Yeah, it's a pretty hard one to solve.
But and you brought up the point that at some point we need to do like our personal stories and testimonies.
Yeah.
You know most of my story.
Yeah.
Does it appear to you that in my life that I gained a lot out of that privilege, those components?
I'd argue that you had a rough life because of the way that you approached it, but you definitely had certain advantages.
Give me one before I surrendered control of my life to Christ, but began to make the right decisions. Give me one.
Well,
It's not even.
Is that
you've said wealth. You've said wealth as an advantage that you have.
That isn't it. My family was fortunate that there was some money,
Okay.
but I will trade that for a loving familial model to have existed in my life at any point.
It's very easy to say that
When you've had the
I
wealth.
have been without though.
well, for someone who had a loving family and parents and stuff like that, but they didn't have no money at all,
It's
they
still
might trade away a parent for some money.
You know, it was more than just a parent. And
I'm saying, once you get rid of one parent, that breaks the family. That breaks the family. Period. Like you both there.
and I can understand the argument, I can understand the position, but I can tell you that, well, I have been without too.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember watching a commercial on TV about a Big Mac or something. I think it was a Burger King Whopper. Starving, I didn't have any money.
You
I
gotta
couldn't
be
even-
one of burgers.
I couldn't even afford to go get a burger. And I remember that time. And, now, some of that was self-inflicted by poor life decisions, and some of that was not. And I was in that place, I've been homeless.
I would argue that than that what many of the people who aren't who won't come from that perspective of that patriotic appreciation of the system is that where they're coming from when they are without, it's not because of the decisions they made so much as the systems that are in place that won't let them have those opportunities to begin with.
The way I was gonna kind of sum that up is, once you started making better decisions, things work out, right?
Yes.
Cool. There are people who feel like they don't have the option to make better decisions, quote unquote.
And not everyone's decisions are rewarded.
Yeah, i.e. that, or yeah, definitely that as well. People who have always made the best decisions, but life decided otherwise regardless. And so that's kind of that difference, is then where you may have went through what you went through and it's like, okay, if I put my head on right, I can go do this, that. I went through what I went through with the legal system and was like, okay, well, one, I didn't feel like I needed to go through some of those things, but even with me going through them, I felt like, okay, well, if I perform better, things will be better. And that wasn't the case. The opportunities weren't there for me for quite some time. It took someone with an outside view of things to put me in a position to be able to do as well as I do today. And it still, of course, took a lot of work and looking and searching and being at the bottom of the barrel of what I do today to being able to get to the point to where I can be in a position where I'm making decent money in comparison to the other people that do my job. I first started off making like less than half of what I'm doing now.
And I worked, when I opened my practice, I worked overnight stocking shelves at Kroger.
Yep.
And wouldn't sleep, come in, see a client or two and take a nap, maybe see another client, then go home and sleep and take a nap, get up and work overnight, just to make sure I could pay the bills. I mean, you do what you have to do to get through. What I hear you saying is that you made a decision that you were gonna not accept this as okay for you or your family, and you made the decision, the effort, and the energy, whatever measure. I mean, it's relative. I think I talked about growing up, there was a family, living in a trailer in a cornfield. They were the happiest people I ever met. Mm-hmm. Loved it. It still impacts me today. And I think if we get our heads around the fact that, you can be happy living in a single wide trailer in the middle of a cornfield if you have your needs met. And that it's not some worldly measure of what kind of car you drive or what house you live in, or if you have things on the wall that say your name, or if your bank account is a certain size, if you can find happiness and peace at whatever measure, whatever level you're at, then that should be the goal. Now, if you have desires to do more things, to achieve more things, then you put your head down and you go do it. You're a good example of that. I feel like I'm a good example of that. Tim, I happen to know your story, and you're a walking example of that.
I'm also a walking example of other people picking me up and helping me cross those lines. Not everyone has that.
Yeah.
No, I would disagree with that, because I kind of know you to a point, but what the changes that have happened in your life in the last year have been of your doing. Your decision to no longer accept X as acceptable.
Yeah,
You no longer get to be a dumbass.
But even with him making those decisions, what he's still saying is that he had to have some assistance. There were people
I didn't get to that point without other people. I didn't get through high school without other people.
That's the same thing that I said as well.
I didn't even grow up as a child without other people looking past ADHD and neurodivergence to help me get normal. Or normal enough. What I'm saying is that I'm fortunate. I'm very fortunate. I know people in the similar circumstances that I was that aren't as fortunate as I am.
Oh, and I can look back over the little town in South Carolina, Florence, where I lived growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I can look back and there are guys that never made it out of it, and they're living in the same relative circumstances that they were back then, and then there are those that aren't. I mean,
I didn't feel like they worked like you. Because what we're talking
I don't think
about
there's
here
a lot of
is,
people who work like
but that's what
that.
we're talking about here is the effort that you put in, the effort you put in, the effort that I put in. but also the fact that we had to have that help as well. And there was a lot of people who may have gotten the same help and didn't do any work, so they didn't make it.
Right.
But there's also that big group of people who work their butt off day and night, and that's all they can do the rest of their life because nobody is helping. And that's
And that reality may be so. And for that individual, I would hope that they at some point find an opportunity where their hard work is recognized and that it is rewarded, and or that their skill set is directed in a way that it is fully utilized. But you know, that does happen. You know, I can imagine in Los Angeles, if you walk into any bar or any restaurant, there's a guy behind the bar who's a bartender who feels like he's as good an actor as Bruce Willis and has deep pain about why he made it and he didn't, right? Why Bruce Willis became Bruce Willis and he didn't. He might even be better looking, he might even be smarter, he might be whatever.
he might be a better actor.
It might be
It's
a
not
better
that hard
actor.
to be better than
I was
Bruce
gonna say,
Willis.
you know, for whatever reason, that's the way it works out. But that doesn't mean that that individual gets to blame society or, you know, karma or damn sure not our country. Then you accept where you are and you make the best out of that life. Thus, the single wide trailer in a cornfield. I mean, you can be happy in your circumstances. It doesn't mean that the system is set up against you. It doesn't mean that, you know, people are out to take from you. Is that, you know, it's all relative. If you've got to work 3 jobs to move your family into a secure environment, then that is what you do. And then if after that, then if you have to work 2 jobs, you know, and whether, you know, everybody has limitations and some people are not meeting their potential, some people are at their full potential, and their potential may be that, you know, they're qualified to be in this area of work. Then hopefully people that, you know, along the way that they maximize that opportunity and they live a lifestyle that's relative to what they're able to earn and have. It doesn't matter what car you drive, it doesn't matter what house you live in. In America today, most people, the vast majority of people, can find access to housing and food, right? And then there's a lot of countries around the world where you can't say that. Now, I know you can tell me, yeah, well, there's these areas and this areas, but I would argue that those are very small areas that haven't been addressed yet, that need to be addressed. I'm not saying it's okay, but, you know, America, you're not gonna starve to death. If you're in that bad a shape, you can walk into any emergency room anywhere and they have to treat you. But in South America, I imagine you
And
could
then you
die
owe
on the
them,
side of a
right?
mountain. Do what?
And then you owe that. You owe them.
Well, but
Yeah.
if you're that impoverished, they're not gonna collect it. They write off those debts all the time. I mean, they can't.
And that's true.
I mean, so what, but yes, we can pick apart the fact that, you know, you're not gonna be a Harvard graduate and you're not gonna be an aerospace engineer, you're not gonna make $1 million a year. We can argue about that. Well, I didn't get the same opportunities. Okay, good. The reality is that you have a great opportunity in America to be in control, as much as we're allowed to believe that we have control with taxation and laws and every other thing, of your life and the outcome. If you make good decisions and you work hard, you can provide stability for yourself and your family. And I mean,
that's
not
what I
gonna-
was telling you though, is because even with working hard, it's not guaranteed that you're going to be able to provide stability. Like when you look at our minimum wage, if I'm an unskilled worker and I work 3 jobs, even in my minimum wage, like the chances of me being able to support my family is slim to non-skilled. Like we don't, the people who are on the lower end of the pay scale here, the lower end of America, do not make enough money to truly support their family. They have to have government assistance. They have to have food stamps. They have to
That's
have all
why
these
it's
different
there.
things.
That's why it's there, to provide a measure of, you know, a lifestyle that you're not gonna starve to death, and you're not gonna freeze to death.
But are you happy in that? To just be, enough to survive.
Considering that so much of American culture is based on the idea that if that's what you have, then you have failed. A lot of people
Yeah,
are.
but that's right, but then to me, that's a failed concept about America. If you have done everything that you can do and you've attained a place, yeah, I think everyone should have, a drive to do more. It's a sense of urgency, a work ethic that is really hard to teach people over the years of managing people in different environments that I was in. That's one thing that's hard to teach. People either have it or don't have it. Typically, you can encourage it, you can foster it, you can help generate it. But again, it's relative. I can look at my circumstances now, and do I want a 1972 fully restored Corvette that just is badass, updated suspension, the whole 9 yards?
It's like the only thing you post.
Absolutely. I want one of those more than anything. But, the financial investment to do that doesn't make sense with the other responsibility. I could do it. I could do it. It doesn't make sense with the other responsibilities and goals that I have. Or, I drive a 16-year-old Ford Expedition. I could drive anything I wanted. I can afford the payment on any car I want. I can go and put a Mercedes, Audi, Porsche out there and drive it. But that would interfere. It would make the normal things that I'm allowed to do because of what I have and being a good steward, it'd make it difficult. And that doesn't seem like a good decision. So I take care of that car, it's reliable, I use it, and I do the maintenance on it because that makes more sense and it provides security. None of that has a damn thing to do with the government's responsibility to me. I am grateful that I live in a country that allows me to make those decisions, and the whole point of that is that it's relative. I am happy where I'm at. Do I want more? Do I want to do more? Absolutely. I want to impact more lives in a positive way. Part of the way I do that is what we're doing here. We're kind of privileged to be able to do this.
Yeah.
The equipment that's sitting here now that you provided for us to use would feed a family for a month and a half or 2 months. But we can do this because we want to get a message out. It's relative. Tim, I know, the struggles that you've had coming along. You're one of the happiest dudes I know. You have your intellectual things, and we all do, right? We all have our struggles, but you're peaceful in that, and I think that's part of it. Is that there is discomfort in life. You're going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be hard. There's going to be on Wednesdays you don't want to get up and go to work, but you do it because it's where and you can be happy in that. And it's not United States of America's fault that you're uncomfortable. It is not, or that you're not a superstar, or that, because it seems like that there's a standard set way out here, and I notice that most of the millennial kids that are graduating from college, literally I have been told, well, I'm not going to take that $40,000 a year job because I feel like I'm worth $100,000 a year. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I used to agree with you on that.
Huh?
So I used to agree with you on that, but I don't agree no more.
That you're going to turn down a job that pays $40,000 a year because you feel like you're worth $100,000.
Where did that feeling come from, though? Like, if there's somebody who went to school, they studied the thing, they know what the field pays, then yeah, they may feel like this is underpaying.
I mean,
or
from the
feeling that they
perspective,
can generate that kind of money on their own accord. There's a
From
lot
the
of people right
perspective
now
of a
quitting
younger
jobs
person, yeah.
and going into that same lane and creating that business of for themselves.
Oh, I'm all about that. Entrepreneurship, go do that.
Well, that's
Like
what I'm saying,
you possess right, but then you're getting into privilege too. You know how hard it is to start a business?
Yeah.
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 And if you succeed, again, there's always a measure of fortune. You've been fortunate if you can succeed in creating.
I feel like I've been blessed. I mean, God's had his finger on what we've done, or it wouldn't have. Now, I had to put the work in. I mean, and I'm not talking about just 1 year of scraping it.
Sure.
It was many years of, holy shit, am I going to pay the bills? And I still have that same sort of anxiety each month when I sit down and write all the bills. My gosh, I'm good now, am I gonna be good in 6 months? You know, what do I need to do to keep working hard? So, the concept that you would say no to a 40,000 a year job because you feel like you're worth 100, so you're gonna take 0 over 40. That makes absolutely no sense.
But to me, that's somebody pushing towards having more.
Okay, so what are you gonna do in the meantime?
Well,
Who's gonna feed your ass?
In my mind, these things are already thought of when you turn down this 40,000. You don't turn down this 40,000 and sit there and drink, eat saltine crackers and ketchup on them. Like you kind of already know what you're playing. You know what you're doing. If you're gonna turn down a job, you assume that you know what you're doing.
That's a personal perspective.
So, now, there could be somebody that you know that they just was like, I'm just not taking this job, and then they want handouts. Like, that may exist. I'm not saying that doesn't. I'm sure it does.
You can't just assume that that's the standard.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the perspective from today. There are so many people not going back to work right now, and everybody's hiring because people are saying, we're not going to accept the lower pay. We're not going to accept these work conditions, and I see that, hey, I could invest in this thing and blow up, or I could invest in myself, or I always want to do this t-shirt company or make, bandanas or sell, potted plants. And these people are, it's a lot easier to make a profit using the internet today than anything that we thought of when we were younger. And having to actually go out and show someone a t-shirt and be like, hey, buy this t-shirt I designed. As in where these kids now can come up with designs and never even touch a t-shirt and profit off of selling t-shirts. So that's why I see why they're taking the route they are now. You know what I mean? It's nowhere near as hard to make money.
Okay, even all of that then, to me, just underscores the greatness of the country that we live in, because you have that opportunity to do that. You can make your own fortune in Maryland. You can create it. And go a different route and contribute to a community, a company, become part of the framework of a company, the culture of a company, work for that company, and be very happy and fulfilled in that life. And if you're committed and dedicated and responsible, provide you an opportunity at whatever level. And you go back to the minimum wage. Minimum wage jobs are supposed to be entry-level jobs. And over time and commitment, consistency and reliability, you will make more money than that.
Do you believe that?
No.
I do believe that.
Do you believe that?
I do believe that.
That's not what's happening.
That's not what happened.
Well, I'm listening to people all the time getting hired now for $12, $14.
That's because they're leaving places and getting hired elsewhere. You don't work from the bottom up in a place because
especially not for minimum wage.
A company's natural entropy is to put a worker in a place and keep them there for as long as possible, and maybe tweak what they do, maybe give them a raise here, maybe convince them that they're in a good place. But a company's job is to make a product as cheaply as possible. Or a service as cheaply as possible.
There was a time where the longer you worked at a place, seniority actually mattered and you did get paid more. And there are jobs who still operate in that way. But these super lower level jobs, they are firing people who've been there longer because they were able to earn more money and try to replace them with new people because they, like I said, we talk about unskilled working. And so we don't need your super skilled, efficient stuff. We can take somebody who's half as skilled and pay them way less. So that's what's happening. That's business decision.
At McDonald's, how much should you get paid for flipping a cheeseburger? The job pays X, and if that's the job you need to have to put food on the table, then you take that job while you look for a different job. I fundamentally disagree with what you said. The CEO of Kroger started out as a bag boy. Bruce Lucia.
And how long ago was that?
Well, he's the current CEO, and
how long?
25 years ago, 30 years ago, he started out as a bag boy and he became the CEO of the company.
Yeah,
I think you can pick any circumstance and say, oh, look at what they did here to this person. Okay, well, that company probably did a shit job. But for the most part, people that, We're not gonna agree with that, and this is where the negativity of America comes in, is that we generalize a concept. All companies only care about putting an employee in a place and making them stay there. But there's no desire to promote that. All companies, they're firing people who've been there too long. I fundamentally disagree with that at all. And I think the individual who is driven, who sees what they want to accomplish, sets out on a journey, and they use a job as a stepping stone to get to a place that they want to be. And then the reality is that they find the place, either they maximize their potential, or they have come to a comfort level that they're happy with. Because there is a balance. To do the things that certain people do, you begin to sacrifice time with family and free time and other, recreational activities, because you're fully invested in your job, career, business, that it goes away from that. For people, this part is more important than that part, and so you reach a point where there's equilibrium, where you're happy with your station and you're happy with the privileges or opportunities that it provides. But to sit back and think that corporations in America sit back and intentionally want to push down people or hold them down, I think is the biggest crock. That is fundamentally what's wrong, because then what you're doing is not assuming any personal responsibility for the individual who is working, who can create opportunities, who can go in, and if they gotta work 2 jobs or 3 jobs to provide the security for themselves and their family, then they do what they have to do. It's easier to sit back and say, it's your fault because you're not paying me. That part bothers me. That's fundamentally what's wrong, because it's easy to say America sucks. Or it's easy to say big corporations suck.
Isn't it equally easy to say that there's nothing wrong?
I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong. I'm not saying that our parts of it can't be fixed, but I'm saying you are individually accountable for what happens with you, to you, and from you, the work that you do. And I am not saying there's nothing
responsible for your opportunities.
And the industries aren't responsible
And these
for
industries
treating their...
control opportunity.
And the industries aren't responsible for making those opportunities better.
And also, you're conflating corporations with America.
They should be entirely separate.
Like
These may be corporations
are
inside America,
no.
but they should be entirely separate.
They're not the same at all. They
in
should.
America.
Legally, they have to be.
Well, they are separate, but in
That's not
America,
because of lobbying in the way that's set up.
Well,
But legally, they're supposed to be.
the capitalist society that we have allows companies, small businesses, the guy that wants to make handkerchiefs, what if that freaking takes off and they're making billions of handkerchiefs, and he's got 500 employees and 2 plants and whatever else? That's a man in America who created a business, who did it all on his own because he took it and did it. I mean, I'm not sure I understand the necessary negativity that both of y'all are pushing. That, Alex, you're wrong because you see this positively, that there are good opportunities for people. You need to accept that it is bad. America's bad. Corporations are bad. I'm not going to get there. I'm not going to get there. And I think it's a naive argument. You fucking do what you have to do to provide for yourself. And if you don't like the way that one company is treating you, if you feel like that their ways are wrong, then you leave that company and you go to another one. If you can't find the path
talking about working 2 and 3 jobs,
then you do what you have to do.
If the corporation is putting me in position to where I have to work 80 to 90 hours a week, because they're not paying enough for this corporation,
work for another one.
I'm already working 2 or 3 jobs. I am working for another one, and I'm still not making enough money.
And
working 70
Making enough
hours
money to do what?
survive.
to provide for my family.
Okay. Then,
If it's me, my wife, and one child,
and if that is, well, okay, and if that is true, then you go to the county social services office, or DFACS office, as we call it, and you can get subsidized housing, you can get food stamps, you can get daycare credits so that your children can be in daycare. That might help relieve some of it if your wife can work. You know, those are all services that are provided. Social services that are provided in America that really aren't that complicated to navigate.
so you don't believe that if a person is working a full-time job of at least, let's just say 40 hours slack, just 40 hours,
Mhm.
that they should be making enough to where they wouldn't have to go to government assistance.
At McDonald's, no. I don't agree with that.
So I should be working 40 hours at McDonald's and relying upon government assistance.
Well, it depends on where you live and what you wanna do. If you're making 40 hours a week at $9 an hour after taxes, you're talking about $1,000, give or take a month, maybe a little more than that, $1,200 a month. Okay, that is gonna be difficult to afford an apartment, a vehicle, and so forth.
It'd be
Okay?
impossible in certain areas of the country.
Correct. So that is why, then, if you live in Cherokee County, I would say that would be almost impossible to live off of that. Then you go over to the DFAC's office and you tell them, this is what I'm making, what can I get? You would qualify for subsidized housing. They would give you an opportunity, instead of paying $1,200 a month in rent, you pay $200 a month in rent. And then it would require you to be somewhat diligent about the money that you make and where it goes. You don't go buy a brand new car that's a $400 car payment. You go find a car that is reasonable within what your budget is. I mean, you make it work.
What car is within the budget of $800?
Oh my God, man, okay.
Like I said,
Everything's wrong, everything's broke, everything's
This is
bad.
what, and I'm trying to tell you that. That's what it is.
I don't believe that.
A lot,
It's not
most
enough money
things
for
are.
people to live. It's just not.
I don't believe that everything is broken. I believe that most things are cracked.
Like I said before, when we had the conversation July 4th, everything is great and ideal.
I mean, what?
Everything is great and ideal as far as America is concerned. All these are great ideas. I love the idea of America, but in practice, it's not right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, people are pushing for $15 minimum wage because $15 minimum wage puts a family of three at living cost, just so we can have insurance. Like, we want health care. we want to be able to provide
And you go on the marketplace and.
decent. Nobody's trying to buy Benz on $15 an hour. You can't.
Like, if you go on the marketplace and you put in your income and your dependents, you will find a policy where you can afford medical insurance for $100 a month. It'll cover you. And it probably has like a $2,000 deductible and probably a maximum out of pocket of $6,000.
I was paying $90 a week for myself.
Okay. Through the marketplace.
Like,
Through the marketplace or through your employer?
I went through my employer because once I went through the marketplace, it was more.
Well, then I would argue you probably should check it again. I've helped clients walk through it.
Okay.
There's policies out there, depending on what your income is, your household income, you will qualify for tax credits against your policy. So if you were paying $90 a paycheck, once a month or twice a month? Twice a month, 4 times, every week?
4 times.
4 times, so that's $360 a month. There is probably a comparable plan on Marketplace that probably has better coverage.
You said
For
based on
less
how
than
much.
that, it depends on how much y'all make. Yeah, if you, as a combined household, you're making $100,000 a year, then you're not gonna qualify for tax credits. Okay, I mean, everything's
This is a
cracked.
conversation where we would have to get into we would end up having to get into all the numbers of how these things work. Like, our opinions on this can be.
Oh, they're fundamentally different, yeah, they are.
But, like I said, you would have to, like, I can't just say these things are happening and you just like, okay, I believe that, or you just say these things, because it's the numbers that I've seen over time, you know what I mean? And so, like, when I see that the amount of money that CEOs has increased, 700% since the 60s, like, that's insane to me. When I see that minimum wage hasn't increased even at the same rate that, what's the word for it? The minimum wage hasn't increased at the same rate that,
Not inflation.
inflation has increased. Like, that's a problem. Like, I can't, like I said, I can't show you all the numbers. We don't have them right here.
The discussion about the minimum wage.
That's just
Well, I
crazy.
mean, the discussion about minimum wage can or cannot happen. So if you take it from 7.25 to 10, I mean, I still think that it puts the responsibility in the individual's hands. There are jobs, there are opportunities. You can go create your own opportunities. You can go work hard. I don't know what you're measuring success by, and this is my comparison.
I'm not talking about
The,
success.
the family that I knew growing up that was in a single wide trailer in a cornfield, literally the car I drove over to meet that young lady was worth more than their home, okay? They were the happiest people I have ever met, and still to this day, I probably have told you this story before. I know I've told you in here. And here I am bitching about clothes as I pull back up into my grandparents' plantation, you know, and worrying about what I'm gonna, my big old Thunderbird, blah, 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 you know. And it didn't, I wish it would have sunk in then, it sinks in now, and it's been a story I've told for a long time, that they found a way that the things that we're discussing, you know, about, it didn't matter. They were happy. They probably did leave, you know, live paycheck to paycheck. They probably, if a problem happened, something broke, it was a difficult obstacle for them to overcome, but they overcame it, and they were happy.
Like, even with you saying they were happy, maybe that was just in your presence.
No, I know, I still am friends with the.
Like, that doesn't mean that they are.
All right, so they were faking being happy.
I said it could be that, but it also could be the fact of, that don't mean they were happy in general, just in life, with everything. That don't mean they didn't want more out of life. That don't mean they didn't want things to be better. That don't mean they didn't realize that it was suffering, or that it was difficult. Like, plain and simple, having money makes things easier. I don't care what nobody say on that subject. Anybody that tell you anything different, just like when people say money don't buy happiness, they ain't never had none. Because the fact of the matter is, I know as a person who comes from nothing, that me being able to just put gas in my car without checking my account is something I'm proud of today. As in where when I was younger, there was no car to put gas in. So the fact that I don't have to check my account or worry about what's happening when I go to buy stuff, I don't have to check my account for I bought these things. There's a level of stress that is completely relieved by that.
Okay,
Just for having the money, therefore making me happier in general.
I don't know if okay, people
That
can
keeps
say
you from
money,
being sad or stressed or frustrated.
people can say money buys happiness or whatever,
It's not
I
it's not a
disagree.
guarantee. There's still things you will be upset about, bothered by, those things happen.
I'll
But
say-
it definitely
I'll
makes
say
life a
that
hell of a lot easier.
the love of money is the root of all evil.
The love, yes. The love.
The love of it, but we're
I'm
still
not in love
required
with
to
money
have
by
it.
any means.
What did you just say?
The love of it is the root of all evil, but we are all still required to have it.
Oh, money's a requirement. You gotta have, the way our system is set up, that you have to have some money and if you don't have enough, that there are systems in place to support and help. And this is an area that we're probably never, ever, the line, again, start to wrap this up. But, you know, these are the hard conversations that we're supposed to have in here. And I know that I can get firm and strong in what I believe, I know you can too. Tim's eyes are about the size of dinner plates over here going, gosh,
I'm just happy to be here.
I'm glad you're happy to be here. Thank you for your
Well,
support.
I'm glad you're happy.
Yeah. So you didn't have to have money to be happy.
Nah, it's money over there.
He's good. But, all right, this is one facet of like a global discussion that you can have with anybody all the time. Now, I would argue that this particular area is probably a big discussion because it does impact cultures and families, societies, so forth, in terms of money and the opportunities to earn and provide and so forth. But, you know, there's 100 other discussions where you and I are so much closer together than we are apart. On this one, we're apart, but that's part of figuring out where the line is in a discussion. You're frustrated because you can't, I don't know if you're frustrated because you can't make me believe what you're saying or that I can't see what you're saying. I'm frustrated because my hope is that you would see it differently, in that the responsibility ultimately lies on us to try to create those opportunities. I get that there's hardships and struggles and all of that, but that's part of it. And everybody who's ever been successful would tell you that there's hardships and struggles. And yes, that's relative.
Yeah.
You can struggle in your mansion, or you can struggle in your cardboard house, I mean, whatever, I don't care. But, you know, being able to passionately have this kind of discussion is what we're promoting with Where's the Line, because this could be a cultural thing, this can be a racial difference, this could be a social background difference, it could be just an ideology, how we view things.
It's economic.
It could be an economic difference.
It's economic.
I'm gonna err on the side of optimism and self-empowerment more often than I am oppression or being pressed down, because my personality is you fight back against that. But again, the point is that greater are the things that tie us together than ever would tear us apart, right?
Mhm.
All right. This is a topic that I'm sure we're gonna revisit more and more over time. Nobody's right and nobody's wrong, right? You're not gonna condemn. I don't do that to you.
Damn. Stone cold.
I don't do that to you.
No, I'm messing.
Well, no, I mean,
Because you already know my perception is always that I could be wrong. Like, I know that there's things that I've viewed one way my entire life, and then 3 weeks ago it's like, whoa, I was
well, and I use the phrase all the time that I can be moved.
yeah,
You can convince me to see something differently.
yeah,
And you have, and we've done a lot of that. I mean, I think that's moved for both of us. So that's a reality of the outcome of this. But again, people that are gonna watch that, you know, the 28 people that might view it, you know, they're gonna see that as a tense, hard discussion. But we can do that, and then we're gonna go stand outside and laugh and cut up, and we'll still be friends afterwards. So encouraging people to have these discussions in a way that don't shred relationships or create rioting or shoot each other in the parking lot over it or whatever. These are the kind of things that we have. Because, yes, both of you added to the view that I have, maybe the economic challenges and how the hell we got there from the Olympic patriotism.
I was thinking about that earlier.
You know, you do add a layer to it. The part that I'm standing so firm on is my belief of, you know, self-accountability and your own ability to work and overcome. And then when that is not, if it's not enough through jobs, etc., then being able to get and find the help and the resources that are there in the community, and they are there. Now, that could be educational process or something that we need to do to help people know what's out there. But whatever, I mean,
that's a huge part of it.
you moved me to an understanding of that struggle, but y'all also seem to assume that I've not ever been there. I've been there. I've been homeless, starving, no car, checking the balance before I put gas in the tank. How about this? So poor that you don't have a bank account, that the cash in your pocket is what you're operating on.
Yeah.
That's the reality that I went through.
Yeah.
Okay, so I get it, but you know, the goal is to expand our knowledge, to give insight to each other, and hope that other people are challenged by the thoughts that what we're doing. So, you know, yes, that was a firm, hard discussion. I like it. I generally like being attacked. That's what
You like being attacked?
by both people.
What's funny is that he feel like he's been attacked. I promise you, I was holding back a lot.
It didn't feel like it.
I was just here.
It certainly didn't feel like it. But
I'm just chilling out.
well, I like it though, because this is what it's supposed to be. I mean, there should be an antagonism. There's a measure of antagonism that's in it, but because the end goal is trying to understand each other's perspective better.
Yeah.
And that is what we're supposed to do. That is why there's Where's the Line. And with that, we can wrap it up, and we will. All right, so we'll figure out what it's going to look like going forward.
Maybe y'all look at this.
Maybe you won't.
Hey, the camera's not dead, so that's
We did
good.
something right. Okay, good
That's
job.
it. Where's the line? Make sure
Thank
to
you.
like, comment, subscribe. I will have a pinned comment, and you can get it in.
All right, thank you.